Welcome to the series of travel videos called the Pacific Coast Highway. Well, if traveling sets you free, then I don't think any place in America will quite have the impact on you for as many miles as you can wind up the Pacific Coast Highway. Basically, I think it's about 1,300 miles long, of which my video overnight series going up to Fort Bragg on the Pacific Coast Highway encompasses one small section of that remarkable drive. But it is, well, part one I call Beauty and the Beast. The beauty is obviously there when you're on the Pacific Coast. The views are just astounding. There's no way to really describe the views, and when you put some nice music to it and a few cinematic touches, it really is like you are there. The beast, however, is the road itself, and it's a very challenging road for driving. I have a 2016 Dodge ProMaster City van, an inky-dinky little van that I call Little Rascal, and I'll tell you, I was white knuckle driving most of the way up there. I could not imagine pulling a big RV, a fifth wheel, or a travel trailer. But the payoff, as they say, high risk, high rewards, is all the beauty that you're going to see in this upcoming series. Just the wildlands, the beauty of the grasslands, the canyons, the plunging canyons, the dramatic overlooks for the oceans, who see some of the amazing cliffs there. Places like Noyo Harbor up in Mendocino County and Fort Bragg, and just the beauty of the morning there as the fishermen and the watermen get ready for another day at sea and the town comes alive. But first, you have to get there. And that is the subject of the first video in the series here, and I welcome you to check out all of the videos to follow as you go with me on a Pacific Coast adventure on Highway 1. am windswept, but for my money, that's one of the most spectacular views on the whole California coast, where the Russian River meets the Pacific Ocean. Well, we got a long way to go, so let's keep rolling. Oh, and by the way, if you're inclined to car sickness, any kind of motion illness, this is not the ride for you. Route 1, Pacific Coast Highway, is about as twisty can be. I remember the first time Bobby and I went up to Fort Bragg, and oh my goodness, I could not believe the road. I jokingly called it the Puke Highway just because of the twists and turns, and I brought Missy Jen up here before to Fort Ross, and well, it was even kind of icy at that time, which was pretty spooky. But do take your Dramamine if you're prone to motion sickness.
Oh, here you are, face to face in this trashy bar. Another glass and I am going places. Makes me laugh about the irony of everything. I like the way you're thinking. I don't really care.
Reaching that point where I'm kind of regretting I took the Pacific Coast Highway. There's so many rock slides that happen here. It's just constant repair work to try to keep up with it. And as you come around some of these curves, you get this sense of vertigo because you're so far above the sea, a few hundred feet above the Pacific here. So just be advised, if you're driving a big RV, don't be doubly careful.
When you're next to me.
Right now we're heading deep into the Redwood forest. One of the reasons they call this the Redwood Empire is just this is the perfect climate. A lot of fog, a lot of mist, not a lot of rain, but I think the moisture from the evening fog that comes in feeds the redwoods, and they are enormous in size for sure, and it's the reason that Fort Bragg even exists as a logging town to harvest all of the redwood trees here. And it's not been without its controversy over the years that people had to be pulled out of trees that were doing tree sitting, refusing to let the logging companies harvest the redwoods, and that resulted in some of the logging operations actually being shut down and moving operations because it was just too hard to deal with the politics. Well, I managed to make it up the coast to Fort Ross. Fort Ross is very important in Sonoma County and in coastal California history because it's the place that the Russian River gets its name. It's also one of the earliest settlements here on the coast, and I guess you would consider it a failed settlement. Some Russians came over here and I guess migrated down from Alaska or came over in boats from Russia, for however they did it, and they landed here and decided to try to set up a self-sustaining community with gathering furs and pelts, but it didn't quite turn out the way that they thought it would. It wasn't a very good area for growing, sustaining themselves on the food source, so eventually they abandoned it. Just too cold, too windy, just too much. Now, I have rolled in here about 4:30 p.m. and have been told, well, the doors to the fort close at 4:30. But you still have access to the grounds. So let's once again make lemonade out of lemons. Still pretty cool. They have a pathway from the visitor center. It brings you along. It's 3/10 of a mile. It's a concrete paved surface, which is nice. It'll bring us into perfect view of the fort, and you'll be able to tell the second you see it that the Russian influence is strong. And there it is. Should look pretty magical with the late afternoon fog rolling in. Always kind of disappointing. Missed it by a few, maybe 10 minutes or so from being able to get into the fort itself. It closes at 4:30, but Missy Jen and I visited quite a few years ago, and you can just put Fort Ross in the search box and you can have a look around inside. But the grounds are beautiful and you can't beat that view. The $1 billion view.